I got my lovely, lovely co-host and daughter Charlie over here. What's up, babe?
Charlie,
Yeah.
I know Charlie.
Charlie.
Yeah, I know.
Charlie.
I'm the angel they left off the big screen.
That's right.
It's okay. No.
That's right. That's right. This is the other angel. You know,
Right.
like they had the other Beatles. See, this is the other
Yeah.
angel. See,
Yeah.
we got the third, and we got four members. We got the third member of the Speaking of Fast crew in the back, the Pittsburgh fan. What's up,
Uh-oh.
Kim?
Yes. Yes.
And
I'm sorry
and
about
we got
that, Kim.
we got the newest member of the crew. What's up, T John? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well, sir. Peace
Yes.
and love. Hello, family.
You know,
Hey.
and
Good to be here.
and let me strike this up and let's see if I
Let me help you out, Dave.
uh-oh.
So today our topic is going to be fathers and daughters. So
Yeah, that's pretty
important,
dope.
you know,
Pretty
right?
dope. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty dope.
Yeah.
And
you know.
so
Yeah.
I think that's something, and that's really the basis of why the podcast was started
Mm.
originally. When I called you and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I thought
That's how that happened.
That's how it happened. I was at work and the phone rang and I said, "What's up, baby?" She says, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing?" And I showed her I was at work. She said, "Let's do a podcast." I was like, "Oh, okay." When? I was like, "No."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it started off as Speaking the Facts in 15, where we just would have
Yeah.
father and daughter conversation for 15 minutes. Sometimes we ran a little slightly over, but definitely allowing the audience to see how our relationship is and how even obviously we're just a couple, just, many generations apart, that,
Uh-oh. The gloves are off early.
Uh-oh.
The gloves are off early, y'all.
We could, we may not,
Yes.
agree, but I'm always going to respect what he says and,
Right.
and and how our relationship is. And over the time, I remember a lady came in who didn't have a relationship with her father.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned that to Teton.
And so we, definitely enjoy in inviting people into our culture, what we do. And so
Right.
I think this topic is definitely befitting because that's really
Yeah.
how the show started.
Yeah. I appreciate the conversation, but most importantly, what resonated the most with me was the podcast title itself. I was fascinating because I have just been going through some things with my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
having to bring her from Virginia and now have custody over her in Texas. It was just
Mhm.
like I started creating content, and I saw it as another opportunity
Mhm.
to heal a wound.
Right.
And potentially heal the wound of my other children, because it's hard when families are no longer in that place that you normally
Right.
found them. And so, man, it was just a great experience, man, to see you all online and just the synergy, the bond. And so it was a part of my inspiration to want to just come and say, hey, man, I can experience that too. Here's my story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You find your tribe.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
And
Yes.
so my passion has been, for children, young
Mhm.
people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but our daughters,
Right.
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
very
and
important.
you wrote something, and I kind of want to, as we open here, I kind of want to read it. It says a father is often the first man a daughter trusts, or the first man who breaks that trust. And you and I, of course, we're going to talk about that, not to shame anybody, but to strengthen families, like you said, because it's about
Right.
us
Yeah.
being closer together. But I thought that was a very profound statement because it's true for a little girl. Her dad is going to be the first male should be
Right.
the first male
Right.
that she experiences that male female bond with.
Right.
And it should be a special time. And I know that I do want to kind of stay on task, but I did ask a question earlier that I just kind of wanted to get a general answer to, because we had a guest on the show not too long ago, and she was a judge and in family court, right?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
And she said that young girls today are just as violent as young boys, if not more so.
Mhm. She did.
And that really struck me, that she said that young girls are just as violent as young boys, if not more. So I just kind of wanted to get both of your opinions. If you think that either a father that is an absentee father, or a father that is there only physically but not involved. If you think that has contributed to that, where we are with what that judge is saying, where girls are actually just as violent as boys.
Hmm. Go ahead.
Okay. My take on it, just because obviously I'm around a lot of women who obviously have daughters, and either the fathers are there or are not there. Um, I think a lot of the aggression or anger from the young girls comes from they feed off of how maybe the mother expresses how she feels about the father, especially even if the father is in the home. Are
Yeah.
they arguing in front of the kids? But if that
Right,
father is
right.
not there, because if we're talking about a single parent, and every time the father is mentioned, it's negative.
Right.
If that child, and I don't want to say is not strong minded, because we are raised to listen to our parents,
Right.
but if that child is not strong enough to know that they can form their own opinion,
They lose their
then
voice.
right, then the experience that child daughter will constantly build into more anger, more anger. And through not understanding having a relationship with their father, that creates more confusion. And so when they're interacting with others, they're going to be less respectful,
Right.
because they don't have something to, positive to stand on.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my take.
Oh yeah. 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 I follow that. Man, it's something about the love of a father.
Oh yeah.
When you think about, well, I try to reflect on some of my shortcomings and things I had to learn as a father. And this topic is dear to me because as my father was a young father, I was a young father.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to emulate what I saw my father do. My mother was 15 years old,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm in the military. And so I thought that being able to have a child was a great thing, but not knowing how to.
They don't come with manuals.
No, I was still a child,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I made some mistakes because
Mhm.
all I did was do what I saw my parents do. And so it took a lot of hard work to recognize we spend a lot of focus on our sons, but these are the young ladies. These are the women that we're sending out to this world.
Mm-hmm.
Are we equipping them to recognize safety?
Right.
Yeah.
To understand and recognize the comfort and the security of a man,
Yeah.
not what
Mhm.
he brings to the table in terms of assets, but, are we building a comfortable environment where she knows the love of a man and the comfort and safety? And so when you look at some of these things that are happening, to your point, there's something about the love of a father, man, and to
Right.
know that this is an image of me.
I
And,
love that. That's
you
so
know,
well put. Because I think, and I'm just gonna say from my own experience, my father, I mean not my father, excuse me, back I'm talking about my father, but my mother, when dealing with my father, because they were not together with us growing up, my mother always referenced him as a beanhead. and many
Beanhead.
other,
I was gonna say that's probably the nicest
I know
thing.
that was the nicest thing she ever said about him.
Beanhead.
Beanhead. That was the nicest thing she ever said about him. So, and she purposely did keep us away from my father,
Mhm.
Many times. Okay. And me though, because I know I think differently, I wanted to form my own opinion
Right.
of him.
Right. Right.
And so while she was saying all these negative things, and when I did get the chance to interact with him, I was like, well, he doesn't seem like a beanhead amongst all the other things, did he get on me? Yeah. But,
Yeah.
again, I'm a child, and
Mhm.
and I know that I'm not, we're imperfect. Right.
Right.
So we got to
Right.
learn. And so with my children, and because I was with my children's father's office for a little bit, but, majority of the time I was not. I made it a point in my mind not to be like my mother, because I did not want to say anything negative about the kid's dad, because I wanted them to form their own
Yeah.
opinion.
We call that the poison pill.
Right.
Yeah.
For their fathers. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I know that above everything else, I knew that they did love them.
Right.
And
Right.
did they spend the time that maybe I would have preferred? No. But again, I wanted my children to create their own bond. So you
Yeah.
can say that I never
Yeah.
kept the kids away from from
No.
them, never,
No.
and pushed it like, hey, go over here, go. And you know, so
And
With my
that's
blessings.
beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, because too often the children get
Mhm.
lost in the sauce why mom and dad are warring at each other,
Yes.
because they're
Right.
wounded,
exactly,
and the child is left to suffer. And
right,
so to be able to make sure, when I'm talking to young men, I say, man, make sure that the mental and at least emotional well-being of that child's mother is in good hands, because she's taking care of your child.
exactly.
And you stressing her out.
Right, exactly. Because we want to make sure as parents, and I shouldn't say, because I just had to recently have this conversation in regards to custody. And I think the biggest thing that I was able to get across to the other parent was that it's okay that you do not trust the other party in regards to you.
Sure.
Okay, because this is
Sure.
adult interaction. But again, your adult interaction was one thing. Okay, yes, maybe they cheated. Yes, they weren't there. Maybe they, didn't have the conversation you want to have, or didn't keep their word. But now when we're talking about dealing with this child, we're
Right.
talking about, do you trust this individual with the child? Are they
Right.
going to feed them? Are they going to clothe them? Are they going to
Right.
house them?
Right.
Are they going to nurture them? Are they going to give them the tools so they can have, be able to think and form their own opinions and be safe? Do you feel that? Well, yeah, but I don't trust them. Okay, but you don't trust them with you.
So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so when you were growing up,
Uh-huh.
if you don't mind,
Uh-huh.
were there moments where you didn't feel safe with your father?
Mm. There were times where I got a butt whooping. Yes.
But-
Spare the rod, spare the child.
That's right. There you go.
I got
Right.
I got
Right.
arse whippings, I
Right.
did for things that I
Right.
did, and I should have, like one time I was really angry at him, and I grabbed a paper clip or something, and I scratched up the face of his watch. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I
Wow.
do.
How
Yeah.
old were you?
I probably
Preteen?
I definitely was preteen.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably preteen.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
But the thing is that unfortunately, I had so much anger in me at the
Yeah.
time because
Yeah.
of the relationship with my mother.
Yeah.
So he came in to try to nurture me, him and my stepmom at the time,
Wow.
and I didn't understand that, and I was not as of receiving of that as I should have been. But again, coming from the space I was in,
Right.
I didn't know how to. It took time,
Yeah.
for me to not be that angry little girl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's discuss a couple of things, because T-Sean, you had some interesting points that you brought up. One, what does why fathers really matter? Because we're talking
Mhm.
about things that have happened when
Mhm.
either fathers have been slighted, they haven't been allowed to be in a relationship with their daughters, or they haven't been in by their own choice even.
Right.
So why do fathers matter? What is healthy fathership, being a healthy father look like?
Right.
What does that look like, in case someone is just struggling, trying to find, what that really looks like? What does it look like for you? What is it, being what does being a healthy father look like?
I think, for one, being a healthy father to me looks like a mirror of my own self, right?
Mhm.
Being able to look at my child and know that if I love myself as much as I love my child, I'll be able to handle that child in every moment of their
Yeah.
lives, right? So when you think about protection, I think the healthy father is aware of the nervous system of that child.
Yeah.
He knows how to speak to that child. He understands that you have to deal with your baby girl a little more differently. She needs to feel safe. So a father that is safe, who knows how to communicate. Not a perfect dad, but a
Right.
dad who spends time, intimate time. And, and that could be as much as just sitting there listening to your daughter. And I'm finding the joy of sometimes parenting myself, or my 12-year-old is correcting my language, or she just want to sit with me and show me something that she created. She
Wow.
just wants to hear a voice of comfort and love and support. And so to me, a healthy father, he carries the weight. And he covers
Mhm.
Yeah.
his child, his
Yeah.
daughter.
Well, so now I throw myself on the mercy of the court. So
I know.
You say you're on the mercy of the
A
court.
healthy father. No, but no, that's true.
I mean, there's many reasons. There's
Right,
many.
there's many reasons, but yeah, if I called my dad, he answered the phone.
He shows up.
So and we are at a disadvantage because we weren't even in the same state,
Right.
So, but
I've gotten in the car and drove to Washington when she called me and said, I need you. When I was in California, I've
Yeah.
gotten in the car and driven
Yeah.
to Washington.
so
Yeah.
so I think,
Yeah.
as parents, we sacrifice, but again, when a daughter sees their father making sacrifices,
Mhm.
because a lot of times moms will say,
Mhm.
I've made all the sacrifices, I've had you, I
Right.
carried you,
Right.
all the things. But
Right.
again, we can't lose sight of what and how important that father is, because obviously without the father's seed, there's no child. So, really allowing that partnership, parenting is a
Right.
partnership, and the children need to be able to see that partnership, even
Right.
if it is a co-parenting
Yes.
partnership.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so I can say that, like I said, even though he was not in the same state as me, I felt safe and I knew I could call him.
Right.
I made
Right.
sure that I kept up with his phone number, so I could call him.
Right.
Yeah.
That was something
Right.
that I had to do.
Right.
And we talked about that earlier. You mentioned that daughters feeling safe.
Yeah, man.
It is a responsibility. And do you think that a daughter feeling safe equates to them being less aggressive, less violent? You know what I'm saying? Do you think that assists?
I think sometimes, at least I've made the mistake. Let me just speak to me. I have four girls, and you can't handle young ladies in ways that you say you love them, but your actions and how you handle and speak to them and the aggression that you project upon them because you're frustrated with them, that does not belong to that young lady.
Right.
No,
Right?
exactly.
And over time, you silence her. She becomes full of fear.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
her body experiences that as love. Now she's out in relationship. And when that man gets aggressive and he's loud and he's, beating his chest and all the kinds of things that come off and should be identified as abusive, she embraces it because he loves me, because my daddy. That's how it felt to be loved. And that's abuse,
Yeah.
And so I just think, man, we have a lot of work to do. I think there's a lot of opportunities, but daughters have to also experience a healthy father.
Yeah. We in our funding for the grant that funds the work that we do at work, it talks about just a state of healthiness, not it talks about being healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually, just
Right.
it talks about total health. And I think that as fathers, especially, because there's a lot, the expectations on men are different than they are on women, and they should be. At least I feel they should be.
Right.
But because they are, I believe in the family that the man should be able to guide and direct. And
Right.
and I was having a
Right.
conversation with a young man on the phone yesterday. That was very, very. He had been bitten by the baby bug. He wanted to have a baby, but this kid's like, well, not kid, but he's 20 years old.
Right.
And as my mama used to say, he didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of.
Right.
But you want to have a baby.
You want to have a baby.
And I'm attempting to explain to him that the frustration that you're feeling that makes you want to have a baby, you don't want to impart that to another life. You don't want to give that to a child. A child is not brought into the world for us to give them our baggage.
Wow.
So we want to make, and like you said, there's no manual.
Yeah.
There's no manual. But as far as short statements, and we, that's one of the points you made about financial responsibility.
Yes.
For a father.
Yes.
Michael Jackson said, if you can't feed the baby, don't make the baby.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. That's what he said.
And that was one of the most profound lyrics in the song I think I've heard, because it was short and sweet and to the point. Children should not be brought into a world where they have to assume the job of fending for themselves because we can't fend for them.
Yeah, and we're not advocating for them.
Yeah.
Even in our communities. Like you're seeing and we're listening to all of the tragic things that are happening in our community that has consistently happened. But to be able to advocate for our families and our women, our children, we must be able to advocate for ourselves.
Right.
And if we're unhealthy men mentally,
Than that. And even and that, I'm going to go off topic, but there's a point behind it. When you look at the statistics, and there are more women than men, and so that means that the men who are getting women pregnant is multiples, meaning a man will have several children with several
Yes,
different
yes.
women. Okay, and so that being said, you know, how can a father, when he is having a father here, excuse me, having a family here, having a family here, having a family here, how do they connect? Meaning, how do they have a relationship? Because I think, my opinion, obviously, as a woman,
that's four, right? Four children,
yeah,
from different moms.
yeah, just
Mhm.
yeah. I remember running across, when I was dating out there, and
Uh-huh.
meeting men and be like, oh, I got 4 baby mamas, or meeting ladies who have 5 kids and a potential 8 baby daddies. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I mean?
Yeah, you a public health crisis now, man. You raising up nations and just
Yeah.
Right,
just toxic, just
right. And
dropping
so
off.
yeah, and so but I think, again, those men who are saying, hey, I got a kid here, I got a kid here, I
Yeah.
got a kid here,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's not anything that you can do about that, right? Because
No.
that's been a problem for ages.
Absolutely.
But how do we get, because we're talking about the topic of how important fathers are to their daughters, and really to their children in general. But how do men get that, if that they didn't get it, you know what I mean? If you didn't have a father that was there for you, how do you know the importance? Or are there groups out there for men and say, hey, okay, maybe you do have a couple of different families going on, but this is how you can make it right.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Well, no, I was thinking about rites of passage, and how important that used to be
Right.
to the African
Right.
family and the African culture
Mhm.
that we come from, and it's like being an apprentice. It's like being an apprentice plumber
Right.
or an apprentice electrician. Rites of passage was to teach you how to be a professional at life.
Mhm.
And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So
Yeah. I know you said a mouthful there.
so
That's a lot.
Wrap it
Yeah.
up. No, I'm kidding.
well, I mean, that's now I will say that back in my day, but I will say
Or a
that
lamb skin. I'm just
back when we wore animal skins and sat around the fire, and carried the club and hit our women and drug them across the ground.
That's Man.
but I mean,
Yeah.
Men in the era that I came up in,
Yes.
did kind of sit down and talk to young boys, and even if they weren't their kids, a lot of the knowledge I got from a guy who was a friend of mine's stepfather, and he used to take us, to play pool and take us bowling, and
So he modeled things
Yeah.
in front of you that dad was not able to do, and that's spending time,
yeah,
attention.
we that ounce of prevention is again just not, don't, like you said, having a kid here and having a kid here. We've got to get our community where we care about the lives that we're creating, because they're lives. It's not just you getting your rocks off having sex with somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's a life that you're creating, and it's a life that can save or destroy the world.
Right.
Right. But that life is not going to save the world if it doesn't get the nurturing and support that it needs. And young women, they're the womb of creation, really, literally, and so we've got to get our community to let men, to get back to teaching men to be men to the best of our ability, so that women do feel safe. Because I think it does come back to that. I think that all the violence that we're seeing in young girls is kind of a it's a lashing out, because they didn't feel safe. You know, a caged animal, a young caged animal will, like a caged tiger, if it's young, it'll roar and pace up and down, and if I can just get out of here,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
an older cat, if it's caged,
Yeah.
it'll just lay there and look at you because it knows that those bars are there.
Yeah, there are multiple reasons. I think one of the most interesting part of it is there's so much coming at them at one time. When we were coming up, we didn't have so much access at that rapid speed to get information and to explore. And these kids, man, they getting information and they don't have nowhere to bounce it off. And so they begin to groupthink, and everybody begins to share pain and go through life struggles as it exists, man. But I just think, man, there's a lot of great opportunities to continue to build strong communities by modeling them, not just, across the street, not just at the church, but just simply having healthy conversations by smiling and opening doors and demonstrating those things that made our community, those small things,
that's it.
A chivalry.
And I believe one of the ways that our kids, feel safe,
right,
period, is realizing that words have power.
Oh man.
Just not to go off into a sermon, but the Bible does say that that the word is God and God is the word, and you know what I'm saying, and they are one. Words are the most powerful thing in the universe. They shape or destroy lives, which shape or destroy worlds, universe. You know what I'm saying? And so we've got to get back to the place where we aren't so cavalier about hurting each other with words, because our children look at us. They like you said earlier, our young girls experiencing a lot of arguments. Are they seeing their mothers constantly curse someone out? It is difficult to be something other than what you have seen, because as human beings, we are products of assimilation and association. We're products of what we see and what we hear and what we take in. So can we got to get back to family, to a family type culture. And that's a difficult thing to do.
Definitely it is. And I think that like going again, I get off topic, but trying to get back to the point, but there's a lot of women out there now who would have a child like that young man, but not have the man, right? They would have the child and not have the man because they say, you know what, I can take my own self to Turks and Caicos. I can take myself everywhere I want to go without a man, and so, and they place, and that's kind of where the words are now, where it's like, this whole masculine energy and that, they, I'm getting to this, so I think again, a lot of women need to understand and see the value in men. So therefore they also are looking for healthy relationships, not just a seed from something that you have no intent to carry on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I just think with time is they just made it easier to not have a father in a home. Obviously, them having all these centers where you can go, I hate to call them a test tube baby, but hey,
you go download you a man.
No man needed. You come get your baby, $10,000 starting, but so again, I think culturally, we definitely need to have more emphasis on the importance of men and respecting of men. It's something that that I respect, but again, I've respected my father innately, meaning that was something that was in me without me knowing it was in me, because I knew that I had a father, and so and from that I was intrigued. I wanted to know and who my father was and how he could benefit my life. You know what I mean? And again, as a young person, you didn't.
I is him and him is me.
Right. And then as you grow up and you start understanding, you start learning. So I think going back to families, we've got to get that back, where that what's in them innately, without it being taught, is not stripped away.
Right, right. And I think what your dad said just earlier about our words.
Yeah.
And as we provide commentary for the condition of a small segment of our community, I've always liked to use the analogy to zoom out a little bit, because you all are an example of how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that there's plenty of examples out there. We just got to continue to touch the community, continue to have these conversations. And because a lot of times we have these conversations and we talk about so much of what the problem is.
Yeah,
exactly.
And even in those conversations, a little child, a little boy, a little girl, and you show up and we want to argue and fight. But the problem is that we keep reproducing these things over and over again. And we're not healing anything. And so, man, community is unity, man. Our baby girls are important.
They are.
They need to see men that not only tend to those needs, but be men of honor and loyalty.
Yeah.
I don't want to be with taking my adult daughters out, hanging out, and they know that my friends are creeps.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Right.
Yeah, you want to be able to take your adult daughter or young daughters around your people, and it's not going to happen.
I don't know about, so the company that I keep is an example even to my daughters.
Well, yeah, because there is a person that was in my life years ago that my daughter came to me and said he ain't cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have not spoken to that person in years because I took what my daughter said and she had to feel safe, and she wasn't gonna feel safe if he was around me in my house.
Wow.
Wow. So I made the choice that my daughter's safety and what she thought of me was more important than me maintaining that relationship.
That's dope.
Yeah,
that's so dope.
Because because just even sitting here in the conversation, it's like you would think that if you know me, my parents are divorced, but by our closeness, you would think that I grew up in a 2-parent household and all the things, but no, it wasn't like that, but it was just through us talking and him saying, hey, this, I am your father, and this is how I'm going to be in your life.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And the same thing with you and your daughters. You're setting an example, and we have to stop using words as weapons. I may have slipped and said hell or shit or something in front of my kids a few times, but I don't. But I'm just saying. But I don't. I know. But I've never called my children out of their name, ever, and because I knew what a sword that was.
Oh man, they won't forget it.
And in the Bible, what they say about words.
About bringing your children to wrath.
Yeah, provoke them not to wrath.
Yeah.
I think about a time.
Argue not with fools.
Like I think here recently, maybe a couple months back, I started recognizing patterns in myself that I saw in my daughter, and it reflected an experience I had growing up as a child. And so my daughter got a little irritable and short, and you can just feel that she was annoyed, and I'm good. You know how we used to do. Yeah. And to be able to sit with her and say, listen, I want you to feel comfortable with me. I don't want you to sit here and hold back what it is that you need to say. I'm going to give you space so I can hear you.
Yeah.
You understand? And being able to understand that there was times when my parents didn't hear me.
Right. Yeah.
And now I have this little young lady who, and so these things that we're learning and growing through and healing through, man. So I was able to sit with my daughter and get a real perspective of how she sees her dad. And although it was encouraging, it also helped me see that, I have work to do, but I'm going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
a part of the healing process that continuously.
Yeah, we're constantly continuing.
We have to be willing, as parents, we have to be willing to be humbled so that our daughters can see that being a parent does not mean being perfect. You mentioned that even in the commentary you sent earlier, there's no manual. She says that all the time. There's no manual. So God doesn't require us to be perfect. He requires us to seek righteousness, which is doing the best, our best, and then letting him do the rest. But we're not required to be perfect.
Right.
So
exactly.
But if we, things get really simple and humans complicate them. Then when we were talking about what we need, and all of a sudden the Beatles popped into my head, just John Lennon, all we need is love.
All we need is love.
You know,
And because of that, I will say
All
that
we
there
need is
are
love.
a lot of adults that
Yes.
that do need fathers, and you know what I mean, like they're and so I have told all all my friends, my father is available for you,
But
And
but
so,
I but
yeah,
I am.
he is
Wow.
he has
Yeah.
taken
Yeah.
on that role, and
Yeah.
and respectively they respect my father as though that is their father, and
Wow.
and they could come to them and talk to him,
That's a
and ask
blessing.
those
Yeah.
questions. So there, fathers are so important,
Yes.
and we can't there, and of course there's no dollar amount on it, and understanding just the impact,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that you have. And so I don't know, I mean, I wish that the younger generation could see that, because
Yeah, I mean, I think they do. I think there's opportunity for that.
Right.
I guess when we were coming up, the generation before us was this
Mm.
hip hop stuff. What do y'all? They
Yeah.
had their commentary for us.
Yeah.
I think what we have to continuously do is meet them where they are and understand that there was a moment when I was wayward, I didn't understand. So how do I
Right.
build
How
a
to get back.
relationship with them so they can feel safe, they can trust what it is that I'm downloading into them and sharing with them. And so, I'm at a point now when you mention a manual, I'm like, well, upgrade,
Right.
upgrade. Because the idea now is that through all my tests and trials,
Mm-hmm.
through all my healing and all the things that I've learned,
Mm-hmm.
I'm piecing together a map
Right.
that we can now hand off. And
Yeah.
it's called healing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, man, we suffer,
Mm-hmm.
whether
Yeah.
if it's through bitterness, resentment,
Right.
Yeah.
our children are resenting us for whatever reason,
Right.
or we're resenting our own children.
Right.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier. We got to get to a place where we're not having children because they're a mistake. You know what I'm saying? We
Yes,
got to
sir.
get to the place where we're having children because
It's on
we're
purpose.
where we want to have children.
Right.
But being man enough or woman enough to where if you do conceive unplanned, still that's a life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and
I
They're
think
small humans.
Yeah, and fatherhood should not be reduced to a dollar, meaning you have so many people who
Right.
associate manhood with wallet size,
Because we've been programmed that way.
and that's not the case.
What you do
Knowledge-
is who you are.
right, and knowledge is priceless. So if a
Right.
father can impact a child by teaching them how to read,
Right.
helping them,
Right.
potty training them, again,
Right.
those things span for, a long time.
Right.
And those things are priceless. So
Yes.
we, women, when we have our children, we got to understand that, I would never say that my children's fathers are not men because they didn't financially give what I would have hoped for, you know what I mean? But that didn't still subtract from who they were. They are
Right.
still men,
right.
and they are in their children's life. And for that reason, I feel like my kids are very well-rounded. I did not keep my children's father away because they did not buy Pampers. They did not pay for daycare. They did not pay for cheerleading. They didn't pay
Right.
for, I mean, I hear all this stuff and it's just like, wow, again, presence is everything.
Yes.
And
It
do
is.
not keep a father from a child because you, again,
Or angry with the father.
have determined that a parent's role is really reduced to $1.
Mm-mm-mm.
Well, yeah,
No.
because the greatest thing that you can give, that you can share with someone, the greatest things are well, the Bible says faith, hope, and love, and again, the greatest of these is love.
Mhm.
Back to the
Right.
John Lennon thing, all you need is
Right.
love.
Right.
Right.
But we have to model peace.
Mhm.
When we model peace, people around us tend to be more peaceful.
Mhm.
And if we're not willing to, again, it comes down to the examples. I didn't see my parents fighting a whole lot. My mother and father, I didn't see them fighting a whole lot, and so it gave me time to take in other examples.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Slightly off topic, but kind of to the point of peace. my first day in kindergarten, I got in trouble. Now you can now,
My dad wasn't perfect. What?
but when I
Yeah.
came up, the men that I saw in my life,
Yes.
they carried around newspapers in their pocket.
Mhm.
And if they had a moment, they would pull the newspaper out, fold it, they would fold it on one side and fold it on the other, but they would read the newspaper. So
Did also double as a belt. I didn't
A fan.
As at 3 or 4 years old, I started taking. I didn't care if it was yesterday's newspaper. I folded up a newspaper and I put it in my pocket. And I learned. I could not. I didn't know how to sound out words. But by the time I was in kindergarten, I had memorized so many words that I could sit there and read a newspaper, or at least look at the words and know what they were.
Wow.
And so when the teacher said it's time to read, I pulled out the newspaper and she snatched it and smacked my head.
You saw your daddy do.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's the point. Is that was modeled in front of me, and that was something, because it was modeled in front of me, I gravitated to that.
Yeah.
And the power of words was kind of imparted to me through those lessons.
Yes.
And Charlie knows that I have no problem with hip hop. I have no problem with almost any kind of music. I grew up playing classical, so I'm really well-rounded when it comes to music. But language that is being spoken in that music is very important to me. And I never allowed music to be played because I can't control what goes on in the street.
Right.
But when you walk through the portal of my house, you were not allowed to walk around with your pants sagging because you got sisters. You wouldn't allow to walk around to play music that degraded them because you have sisters.
Right.
You have a mother. You know what I'm saying? So you wouldn't allow to listen to music in my house that degraded them.
That's right.
Because words are power. And we have to emphasize that so that we get people to want to communicate in peace.
Absolutely.
Because she said it early on. We didn't always agree. We don't always agree.
Right.
But
and even thinking about going to that's something that I did with my kids.
Right.
We didn't watch, movies with cuss words. Like, we watched Disney. Like, and I knew every movie, and that was what we did. So
Disney.
Yeah, that was what was. We watched age appropriate things. We listened to age appropriate music. So there was a lot of my kids say, "My mama did let me this way," and I know, but I wanted to protect them from what was out there, so that when they did get out there, they could know how to handle it. Right. I can't stop bad things from being around you, but I can teach you so you can know how to handle the bad things when they get around you.
Uh-oh.
And so
that's chapter 6, verse 13.
I know, right? And so that was just so important. And because I knew that that I respected that,
yes.
and that was just, again, that was so important. So it was passed down,
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful, man. I'm sitting here going back in my head, thinking about my children and thinking about my daughters specifically. And, they would say when you have a lot of girls, that's the myth, right?
Yeah.
These girls that are entered into your life is to soften your heart. Right. To make dad more nurturing, right. So when you think about it, that old ancient text, Malachi 4 and 6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it speaks about turning the hearts of the fathers back to the children.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so in any state that we are in any kind of condition that we have spoke about, there is hope for us and our children's children. So I just believe that we first must build infrastructure that speaks to the womb of the mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
Right. And then being able to put in position so we can create and build healthy, strong families for the future.
Exactly.
And sustain them.
And we do
generationally
it by not satisfying self. Because when we have children, we are not here to satisfy ourselves. We are to raise our children in his image.
Right.
So again, you put yourself on the back burner. So that way you can have these seeds that are healthy.
But let me say, for those out there that are thinking, well, what's in it for me? You shouldn't have
that. There's nothing in it for you until your kids are grown.
You should not have that attitude.
You do not exist until your kids are grown.
However,
I'm a free person now.
However,
it feels great.
my last birthday, I had I had two of my children there.
How old did you turn? Jeez, Louise, you know.
Wow.
See, I didn't know. I didn't know the bell rang. I was supposed to have my
Right,
guard
right.
up. For those who might be wondering, I just turned 69 in June.
Oh
And,
man,
Yeah.
And
That's it.
and you know and
49,
no 69.
69.
to
Yeah.
my father.
Boy, you just getting started,
I
man.
know, right?
Hey, still the
Just
milk
getting
still
started.
dripping from my ears. But to have 3 generations of people there celebrating my birthday, children,
Oh,
grandchildren, great grandchildren.
That's beautiful.
That
legacy.
was getting it back.
Your
You know what I'm
legacy.
saying?
Yeah.
And I've lived long enough to get some of that back. And I teared up several times just thinking because of all the mistakes that I've made that they love me through them. But that love has to be given so that it can be given back.
Right.
You know,
Reciprocal.
And
Yeah.
it is, and like you
Yeah.
said, that giving stage for parents is a long stage.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's a long
Yeah,
stage.
now you wonder why you're gonna just jam them out the house at 18 and send them out there to the wolves.
Yeah.
You grown now,
Yeah.
man. Their brain's still 12.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know,
if
and
you
so,
let
yeah.
them watch things that was not appropriate, play
Yeah.
games that are not appropriate.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't know how
No.
to handle things.
No, and like my youngest grandson with Charlie, Trey, and even Jackie, some of my lady's
Yeah.
son Jarius. They're the
Wow.
same age, and they're their mothers they're at home with their mothers a lot. They're still an integral part of their
Yeah.
lives. But that's that rites of passage
Right.
where they're being taught to be men.
Right.
Jarius goes to college. Trey is
Right.
working. You know what I'm saying? They're being taught to be men. They're just not sitting there at home looking for nothing to do.
Nothing to do.
Right,
know,
yeah.
they're being taught to be men. So that's the thing, is that that journey is going to be different for different people.
Right.
And I'm glad that both you and Jackie had realized that journey is going to be different. I was out of the house at 15.
Well,
Yeah.
you
but
bumped your head. But it also just talk about, Jackie, like I think about when we were raising our boys, and it was just so important that when me and her talked, we had the same feelings about how it was to raise our children and raise our young sons and what we wanted our sons to be, and so and that she trusted me with Jairus and vice versa,
Yeah.
with Trey. Those are so important, again, as mothers.
Right.
When you're bringing your children around your friends should be looking and emulating that same type of lifestyle.
you said that earlier, that you can't bring
Yeah.
you put your kids around people who
Yeah.
are jerks. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah,
Well, shout out to the stepfathers and the bonus dads,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, how we get on the internet, them internet folks, man, they always right.
Right.
But they're minimized and mocked because you're coming in to heal a community
Yeah.
where there's a
Straight
gap.
up.
yeah,
And that takes a lot of work to blend the family.
it
Yeah,
does.
it
And so a lot of times, we overlook that work that has to go through having to deal with the suffering and the pain and the wounds of another family.
Mhm.
There's a special man for that,
Yeah, it is.
right?
Yeah,
It doesn't, every man shouldn't show up for that, but I just want to shoot them out, because
Yes.
a lot of times, man,
Yeah. In fact,
these brothers
the step
on the front line,
the step
you know what I mean?
parents,
Right.
Stepmoms as well.
But
Yeah.
for the reason that you just said, and I know we got to get close to getting out of here, 3-4 minutes more.
Yeah,
But
move
for
at
the reason
peace.
you said, I've never allowed my children to call the mother in their life a stepmother. I never allowed the word step to be used, because if I talk about the story of Cinderella, the stepmother, the stepmother analogy, it is a caste system. It sets up entitlement, those who are better and those who are worse.
Mhm.
Those who deserve more and those who deserve less.
Words.
Yeah, words have power again. So I never,
Lesson
allowed
learned.
to use
Good notes.
the word step to be used in around.
And
stuff.
I watched my brother, who is a stepfather, his stepchildren call him dad.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. There's no step. You just are.
Yeah.
you
And
know?
How can you advocate for women and children on the internet? How can you advocate for your community and you see these children. You don't have to marry anybody, but the point is, we all community. What did they used to say? What was the cliche?
Right.
Well, yeah. Well,
It takes a village
to raise a child.
to raise a child.
Well, the etymology of community is common unity. You know, it is, and that's what it took to, like you said, to having people like Jackie around, where there was a common unity. You didn't have to worry about Jackie raising Trey different. Jackie didn't have to worry about you raising Jerry differently.
Right.
There was a common unity.
Or even a Kimmy,
You know.
I mean, all of us. We just all, and so I think the communities are there, and the people just have to know how to get to. You have to look for it. You know, I hate to call them resources because people, but
I ain't got no price tag on me.
I know ain't no price tag on it, finding and connecting with those people, allowing those people to challenge you.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't want to be challenged, but the only way we become better is to line ourselves up with people who are going to challenge us.
That is
to do better.
That is a big thing for young men. Don't just give your time, your resource to people who all they want to do is to use cuss words and disparage people. Find people to give your valuable time to that are going to inspire you to be greater, like you were saying earlier, going to inspire you to be a better person tomorrow than you are today. I know we got to get ready to
get out of here, but I do want to, those who are still watching, it's this Friday and you've never been, I'm inviting you and the whole audience. We host a networking event once a month at the Indoor Jacket down in Mansfield. It's absolutely free, and every person with a business purpose or passion does get the mic, and they have a captive audience to share their business. We've created that community there.
Dope. How can we get in contact you? How could they email or come on out and support this event?
So it's on my page, under my name, Charlamagne Armstrong.
Okay.
I've been posting it here every day, but they can call me personally if they would like to, 214-738-4913. If they, but there's no registration. Just come on out. I would love to fill it to capacity. I think this Friday we're definitely going to have a full house. So, and I can pride myself on saying that every week somebody is making money. Nobody leaves out that door and they have not made money for their business. And I'm definitely proud of that. I get to hear those stories. I'm like, this is so awesome.
Wow.
So speak for what you would like to see as we go. Speak for what you would like to see, what you would like to impart to maybe a young father that is just getting into the game, or maybe a father that has made a few mistakes and looking for a better way. What would you like to leave him with?
I will speak to the devices and the technology and the era that we're in now. I would say that Windows 2006 doesn't work in 2026.
Amen to that. Yeah.
You will not get any reception from an iPhone 6 in 2026. So I just believe it's time to upgrade our information. It's time to find sources. There's so many resources and people in our communities that are made available to be able to help these young men. So I just encourage young men to build community, find your tribe, and remove the viruses that are contributing to those traumas and keep making you go into these loops. We got to be responsible for ourselves first. And if you don't love yourself, then how can you love your children?
Amen to
in
that.
a healthy way? So community is important. So I just encourage men to find community, man, and let's heal the land.
Right. So what would you like to leave with fathers out there? What would you like to see for young men to bring to their daughters, or maybe like you said, an older father that hasn't, Well,
I want to kind of play off what he said. If you don't see a tribe, it's okay to step out and create your own. When you see that there's an issue or problem, it's okay to be that trailblazer. You don't have to wait on somebody else to do it. So it just takes one. And so go ahead and be that one. So that way you can impact your family, your lineage, what you're trying to do, and let that keep going on for generations.
Okay. And I would just leave you with a movie I saw, a little girl asked God why he let bad things happen to good people.
Wow.
And he said, well, I'll put it up a suggestion box, but have you ever seen day without night, or left without right, or up without down? And she had to say no. And he said, the only thing I've never been able to do is create something with just one side. So be humble enough to be wrong, so that when you are right, you can be right because it's the right thing to do, not because of your ego, not because of something you saw on the internet or something that you heard in a song.
Right.
Be humble enough to be
Right.
wrong, so that we can learn, because like we said, there is no manual.
No.
Be humble enough to learn, and be humble enough to love,
Right.
so that love can come back to you. We're not gonna raise daughters that can be queens through violence, through
Right.
anger.
Right.
We gotta learn to let that go.
And bravery, to me, is admitting you're wrong. Bravery is being accountable. A lot
Yes.
of times, and I'm not a man, but like man, the male bravado is like,
Yeah.
I'm, it's bravery to
Yes.
to be humble.
To be humble. Yeah,
It's bravery to admit you're wrong. It's bravery to be accountable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we are the creator's most creative creation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go
Yes,
forth
we are.
and create.
Yes, we are. Again, I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us. We are getting back to doing live, and we're just revamping the show.
Yes.
But it is very important to thank you and to encourage you to spread love. As Take Six says, spread love throughout your family, throughout your community, so that we can have love.
Right.
It is so important in this world we're living in today to realize that love is the key. And Stevie said love is in need of love today. It surely is in need of love today. Thank you, TikTok family. Thank you, StreamYard. Thank you,
Peace.
Facebook. Thank all of y'all for coming out. I do want to just quickly acknowledge Kiss Wealth Now, the show that has brought all this about, and that's our main sponsor.
Main sponsor.
So
You
again,
need content main sponsor.
if
I do. I do.
if you
coming
want
out on
to,
Friday too, right?
if you need a house sold, if you want to buy a house, if
Yes,
whatever
man.
you're doing, if you're renting, whatever,
Yes.
Kiss Wealth Now,
Kiss
214.
Wealth.
Get out of
7.
your feelings and call me.
Yes.
But I mean that, people be in their feelings saying, I'm in my feelings because I don't have the money. I'm in my feelings
Right.
because my credit ain't good enough. Stop letting your feelings advance you.
Yeah.
Wow.
People let their feelings advance them, stop them from advancing. Remove your feelings and allow the critical thinking to be there. Hey, there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
More broke people have done so much more in life with no money than somebody who had the money.
Uh-oh.
And if you feel like you're on the bottom, ain't nowhere to go but up.
But up.
And that's a
Call
high
me.
value father.
Yeah. So
You
again,
can do it broke.
just shout out to all the fathers. Keep on doing what you're doing, because you're doing it well. Charlie, go ahead and take us home.
Like we've been saying, you have to love yourself so you can love someone else.
Amen.
All right.
So again, we will see y'all next week.
Peace.
I'm hoping that maybe we can get T-Time back in here and continue this conversation on another one. This
Yes.
brother's part of the team. So even if you don't see his face, he's working behind the scenes. Thank you, Kim. It's nice to have you back again at
Yes.
Pittsburgh. She's back there
she's
waving.
back, yeah.
So again, much love, peace, and blessings to you, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Indeed.
There you go.
The intro, the outro, the same song.
Yes.
We got it.
Hey, this is
My
Charlie,
man.
This is JR.
host of Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR, broadcasting live each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. from Fishbowl Studios.
Log on to hear us speaking the facts on current events, family, and finances.
So be sure to log on each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. to catch Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR.
Tune in.